Have you ever wondered what creativity really is? Where did those groundbreaking new ideas actually come from? Well, the brilliant writer Isaac Asimov thought about this a lot, and today we're going to dive into his take on the whole thing.
So let's start with the big question he posed. How do people get new ideas? Now, what's interesting is that Asimov was convinced that the process is basically the same for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a painter, a scientist, or an inventor. He believed the fundamental factors behind a new idea are always the same.
So to get to the bottom of this, Asimov didn't just sit around and guess. He did what any good thinker would do. He looked for clues in history. And he found the perfect case study, a tale of two naturalists, Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace, who both came up with the theory of evolution by natural selection at pretty much the exact same time, completely independent of each other. How does that even happen?
Well, this is where it gets really wild. Look at the parallels here. Both Darwin and Wallace traveled to these remote corners of the globe. Both of them spent years observing all these strange and wonderful species. Both were trying to solve the exact same puzzle. Why is there so much variation in nature? And here's the kicker. Both of them read the very same book, an essay on population by a guy named Malthus. All the pieces of the puzzle they had were identical.
So you gotta ask, right? If they both had the same background, the same information, the same key stimulus, what was it that allowed them to make that same incredible leap? Asimov realized that just having the facts in your head isn't enough. The real genius, the real moment of creation, was what they did next.
And here's how Asimov broke it down. Step 1, you've got to have deep knowledge in your field. For them, that was years of studying species. Step 2, you get some kind of external stimulus, something from outside your bubble. For them, it was reading Malthus's ideas about human population growth. But step 3, that's the magic. Making the cross-connection. They took an idea from human society and applied it to the entire natural world. And that right there, that was the creative spark.
You know, this reaction from the famous biologist Thomas Huxley just says it all. When he first read Darwin's work, his mind was blown. But his first thought wasn't that it was complicated or strange. It was, how could I have missed this? Because once that connection is made, a truly brilliant idea often seems completely obvious in hindsight. It just clicks.
Okay, so this brings us to the next phase of Asimov's investigation. If making these big cross-connections is the key to creativity, then what kind of person is actually able to do it? It's not something just anyone can do. Asimov believed it takes a very particular kind of person, what he called a daring eccentric.
And daring is the perfect word for it. See, according to Asimov, if a connection doesn't require any daring, it's probably not a new idea at all. It's just the next logical baby step from something we already know. A truly new idea requires the guts to connect two things that, to everyone else, seem to have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
I mean, just stop and think about it for a second. The idea that we're living in a giant sphere, hurtling through space around the sun, that was completely nuts at one point. It flew in the face of all common sense. Even basic laws of physics were once seen as just plain unreasonable. Proposing these things took real courage.
And that leads directly to a core personality trait. If you're going to be the one to stand up and challenge what everybody else thinks is just obvious common sense, you have to be incredibly self-assured. You need a rock-solid belief in your own vision, even when the whole world is telling you that you're crazy.
And let's be honest, people with that kind of unconventional thinking and intense self-assurance, they're rare. Asimov pointed out that someone who is eccentric in their thinking is often eccentric in other parts of their life too. Their habits, their personality, they just don't quite fit the typical mold. And that's why, to the rest of us, they can seem a little odd.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about the process of creativity and the personality of the creator. What Asimov gives us is almost like a formula, a recipe with all the essential ingredients you need for new ideas to actually happen.
So here it is, the recipe. First, you need a solid foundation of expertise in your field. You gotta know what you're talking about. Then you need that unconventional mindset, that willingness to be a little eccentric. And that has to be backed up by some serious self-assurance and daring. And of course, the key skill, the ability to make that cross-connection. But, and this is a really important note from Asimov, just being a crackpot isn't enough. Eccentricity without expertise doesn't lead to genius.
And that brings us to this. Asimov's powerful, clear, and totally brilliant definition of creativity. It's not some mysterious, magical force that strikes from the heavens. It's a specific action. It's the daring act of forming a cross-connection between things that don't normally seem connected. It's about seeing a hidden bridge between two separate islands of thought, and then having the courage to be the first one to walk across it.